Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, to another episode of Carnivore Muscle Ramblings, number 36. The live Q&A for all your meatiest questions, and I'm joined today with Jerome Armstrong again, after a delightful period off of perhaps 2 to 3 weeks. How's your rest been, Jerome?
Life has been crazy busy, and I don't know where the time goes, but everything is going well. Everything is moving in the right direction. How are you and your beautiful family doing?
Oh, very good, thank you. Yeah, I've been home alone with George, who's sat next to me right now, for about 2 weeks. I've just been pottering around the house, making lots of videos, lots of critique videos, which I know people are quite keen on watching. So that's pretty much it. What else? Been going to the gym, doing some cool stuff there. Still got a aggravated shoulder. My right hip's still messed up. But otherwise, very happy considering the opposition that I have. So I'm otherwise in a good mental place, which is quite interesting. So it just goes to show you how important a positive and collective social group is, I think. Does like your relationships with people. So I'm very grateful to have people like you and Sophie and my family and George, who sat next to me, of course, to talk to when I'm here alone in the house.
Well, thank you. The feeling is mutual.
Excellent. Great. We are answering your questions today, guys, so please put them in the chat. I know some of you have already. This is the best opportunity to ask me questions on the channel. Of course, anything to do with nutrition, bodybuilding, training. Think people that are wrong on the internet. That's also a good one to talk about sometimes. So we've had some brilliant chats recently, Jerome and I. So yeah, it's nice to go live sometimes and kind of share what we've been talking about to some extent.
And Jonathan and I will be fighting a never-ending battle against the calories in, calories out crowd until we both die and they put us in the ground.
Yeah, I did like the sick video today, guys, with Joff from Revitalize Yourself, that YouTube channel. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. And probably air it on my channel and air it on his first, because he did ask me and he interviewed me. So that'd be a good one. I think that should put the nail in the coffin again. I don't know how many times I have to put the nail in the coffin, but I'll just keep doing it until people get the picture and stop talking to me about calories. So we'll see. Might work out. Mm-hmm. Quickly scroll for the chat, see what's going on. So we've got Speaking of course, hit the like button. That's essential. That is a prerequisite to join the live chat, or it should be at least. So hit like, please. That does help. I'm still being suppressed for most videos at around 300 to 400 views per video, which is annoying. Evident the fact when I look at my analytics, 100, 200, 300, 400, deadline. Black line completely. So it is helpful. So I'm trying to get to that next stage now, my YouTube evolution. So part of that is people like yourself hitting like right now. And that is very useful to me. I do appreciate it. So hello. 100 composition coins as well for the big Nev. Great. Powerful thunderstorm here. Yeah. What's it like where you are at, Jerome? Anything interesting?
Sunny and beautiful. I'm probably going to go swimming with my daughter tonight.
That sounds delightful.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to talk about things that I can't do right now, Jerome?
Just to rub it in. It's been a few weeks, so I'm feeling a bit spicy.
Yeah, I thought so. Nah, Sophie and I we did get swimming for 20 minutes when we went on our mini break. My hip, I can't swim now, basically. As I am now, I will never be able to swim again. I can walk in the pool, which is fine. I can't do anything. I can't, I'm useless pretty much in that way. Saying that the reason why we got out was actually Maddie's fault. She sicked up in the pool quite heavily.
Sure.
Partly my fault for throwing her under quite a few times by accident. Please don't block my channel and claim child abuse.
Well, I think we just found out why your views plateau very, very quickly.
Yeah. Sophie's joined as well. Excellent.
Hello, Sophie.
Excellent. Turns out you can actually buy a channel membership for your own channel.
Well, that's odd.
I couldn't do that before. So now I'm basically paying myself money to have a thing next to my name.
Yeah.
No. I'm losing out on 30% of my money for it, but whatever. It's like, I mean, like 50p a week or a month or something. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Sophie's going to try and join shortly. Excellent. I was trying to stop water from leaking out my air conditioner. I discovered it was pulling away from the wall. Sounds about right. Rick, how's it going with your studio setup? I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm looking forward to that a lot. I just thought, actually, Jerome, I've got a few special guests coming up on the channel.
Any names that you can drop now? Or
Yeah,
you're going to play that?
Chafee.
Oh, excellent.
Perhaps on Friday. This has been coming now for about a few weeks.
Sure.
So we've finally found time to organise it. Hopefully this Friday. Who else is there? There'll be yourself, I'm sure, at some point. My friend Marty from the gym. He runs the gym that I go to when I'm at my place. Cool guy. Well informed. Doesn't share the same nutritional ideas, but shares pretty similar training philosophy.
Yeah.
He is a coach as well, and he has trained lots of people, so, you know, he's got a good idea of what he's talking about, even if he doesn't have the same ideas with regards to diet, so that'll be good to have on.
Excellent.
And also my friend Sean, perhaps on Friday this week at 7 p.m. That might be a Carnivore Muscle Rambling segment, I'm not sure, so I might have you, Jerome, as well, if you're interested in joining.
Yeah, just let me know.
My friend Sean, by the way, it's not Sean Baker. It's another friend from the gym. So, yeah.
It turns out,
forward to, guys. Lots of great content.
It turns out when you spot somebody for long enough, you build a bond with another human being that is right up there in terms of importance and fulfillment with marriage and some other relationships.
Yeah, I'd agree. All right. What would you tell someone who's looking to start out with eating better and starting training? That's a very good question. It depends where they came from. I know, Jerome, you always have a good talk about having the best option. What do you say? Because I know you have a good way of outlining it.
Usually with people, I try and transition them towards lower carb over a number of weeks, if not a number of months. So I usually start with what have you done before in the past that you've had some degree of success with, or that you've been able to stick to for quite a while, and do that. Or if you haven't really tried anything in the past, just sometimes the advice is as basic as eat what you know is healthy and don't eat what you know is not healthy. At least early on, sometimes it's just about conditioning a habit of living up to a conscious decision. And then once that's no longer this interior kind of battlefield back and forth, and it's a habit that's not really consciously happening, then you can always raise that standard a little bit. Similarly to when we recommend that people transition to a carnivore diet very slowly, I tend to think that the people that experience the best degree of results aren't the ones that just go right into it super hardcore right off the bat. Usually you have to kind of ease people into it.
Yeah.
What about you?
I agree. Definitely with diet, I'd say the same thing, to be honest. With training, you can get a lot of benefit out of just bodyweight stuff. I think just getting a chin-up bar and some bands is about as much as you probably need if you're doing a home workout. Anything in addition to that will just give you percentages, more results. But for your money, I think that's the best bet. Starting training, you don't need to do a lot. I think you should practice the movement plenty of times. I don't think it's essential to go and train to muscular failure. You won't be able to anyway, because as a beginner, it wouldn't be safe anyway, because you'll probably hurt yourself. But just have a feel for the muscle, learn to program your mind into the exercise that you're trying to perform, and find a full body workout regime that makes sense, works. Mm-hmm. Try to do maybe 2 or 3 sets per exercise. So maybe the big 5 people use, so it might be 10 to 15 sets. It'll take you about an hour. Do that twice per week, try and learn each movement properly, and go from there. And I think for anything more specific than that, Sophie, I'd recommend booking an affordable consultation with myself or Jerome, which is highly, highly advised.
I just want to reiterate, really kind of ease into your workouts too, before we went live, I told Jonathan a story about how I had a potential new client and I pushed her really, really, really hard. And the amount of soreness that she had, she's not coming back. I lost a potential client because I pushed her too hard. And it created this idea in her head that every time she comes to me to work out, she's going to be so sore she can barely move. And that's not true. After a while, soreness kind of subsides. And it should be there a little bit, but it not to the same extent. So, yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that point.
Yeah, it's very, very important factor, that, definitely. Got a question from Ben. Have you used Tomcat Ali and Dogia? What was your experience? I've probably used them both in some natural testosterone boosters in the past. What was my experience? I don't remember it, so that might give you a fair answer. They're not things I recommend. Often these things can cause some gut irritation. Usually they're added with things like zinc oxide, magnesium oxide, which is deleterious to gut health. They don't digest well. Effectively putting something that's broken into your body and expecting it to do something. Oftentimes the extracts from different herbs are not well sourced, not very good quality. The time it goes from the plant itself to the place in China, wherever it's harvested, to then being put into a drum, to then heated, to then treated or powderized, to then turned into an extract, to then put in a capsule with added fillers, to then travel halfway across the world. In the supply chain, there's a lot that could go wrong, and we've seen this with different things. Namely, I believe it was Greg Doucette, or was it More Plates, More Dates? They produced a product which had, I think it's turkesterone in it. One of those two. I'm not going to say I know which one, but it's one of those two.
Yep.
And it was not a legitimate product. Therefore, lots of people are scammed out of their money. And yeah, so it's not ideal. My best advice, if you're using it for testosterone boosting, is just to spend more money on a better diet and apply all the life hacks that seem to do the most amount of good. Also as well, I'll give you guys a little snippet on my blood test results that I had recently. My testosterone came out at low normal. Bear in mind, in that time that I've had lower testosterone levels, I feel happy. I'm not depressed. I'm not underperforming in the gym. I'm still getting stronger. I'm still gaining muscle. So what does that tell you about testosterone? There's other things which act towards muscle growth, if that's what you're looking at for. But in terms of like well-being and sense of wellness, I think you're better off investing that money into a consultation with myself or Jerome, as I always say, or applying the life hacks, or buying better food, or buying a more expensive gym membership which allows you to use more specific equipment, perhaps. So it depends on what your goals are and what kind of context comes into it. What do you think, Jerome? Have you tried any of these sort of herbs and stuff?
No, I unfortunately have very little experience with any supplements at all. I'm relatively frugal financially, so I have a hard time justifying, $50 on something when that could go a long way towards my food budget. Or kind of like Jonathan said, the cost of one consultation can save people literally hundreds, if not thousands of hours and a lot of headaches. And Jonathan and I are not putting ourselves up on a pedestal, but we've unfortunately have come to a certain amount of knowledge and expertise because we've tried so many things in the past, and we've spent the amount of time going to university and studying these things in our free time, to where, one $50 bottle of, turkesterone or any over-the-counter supplement, a pre-workout, any marginal benefit you may gain from that is going to pale in comparison to the amount of time and headaches and struggles that you could save with a 1 hour conversation with Jonathan. If somebody has the money and they want to experiment with certain supplements, I would say go for it. But at least here in the States, the USDA has to prove that your supplement is dangerous to take it off the market, instead of you having to prove it's safe to get it on the market. So I would be extremely scrupulous with what you put inside of your body. It all starts with real food, and you want to experiment beyond that. I guess you have my blessing, do your best research, but I don't recommend any supplements. I might try taurine, because I know Jonathan, Harry Serpanos, Bart K, a number of people in the carnivore space really rave about taurine. I might try it and it's relatively inexpensive. And there are a number of manufacturers that use third-party verification in terms of their manufacturing and quality of their product. But these are all things that should be considered before just randomly purchasing some supplement in the pursuit of bigger muscles.
Yeah, and the thing is, what about taurine, guys? It's not an extract. It's not taken away from a plant. It's something that will exist within foods. If you supplement with it, you'll get some benefit, providing the fact that you might be deficient. There's now some, although I think it was rodent studies, longevity research on it. There's the fact that it helps prevent left ventricular hypertrophy. There's the fact that it's a potent antioxidant to different cells within the testicles. So that would definitely come into elevating testosterone production. Other than that as well, like Jerome said, it's cheap. You know, I about half the people I speak to find some benefit from it that makes them keep taking it. And I expect that number to go up and down all the time, but it's been quite consistent. It's been about half people, so it's worth the small investment that it is. I don't have an affiliate link yet, but you know, I'm trying to promote something that is useful to people that doesn't cost them a lot of money. So I do recommend that over those sort of products. I actually mentioned on my first interview with Bart K, when I first went on his channel, I said, if you're looking to use different supplements to increase testosterone, the safer approach would be to go to a TRT clinic and have injectable testosterone. If you're trying to increase testosterone, it's deficient, that's the best way to go about it, because you'll have blood tests to evaluate what it's doing in your body. And also these things are tested on humans as well. So although it sounds more damaging, more harmful, it's actually safer. So I'm not condoning or promoting drug use by any means, but what I'm saying is, under correct medical guidance and a clinician's review, something like that could be useful if your blood values indicate that you need more testosterone. Excellent. Anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. That's a good question. Speaking of asked, how can the fat loss be detrimental on some physical aspects like strength, recovery, sleep, etc.? So, Zbigniew asked me this, I believe it was this morning or yesterday, for an email. I thought it was a very good question. I, of course, did answer it. But can fat loss be detrimental? So what he's basically saying is, if he's under-eating protein or fat, or deliberately reducing it to some extent, how much of an impact can that have towards your strength, sleep, and recovery? And also, what do you think kind of comes into it? So obviously we know about a low dietary fat intake, we'll be getting in less fat soluble vitamins. So chronically, yes, that will have an impact on your hormone levels. If you're having less dietary source of fat, chances are you're having less cholesterol as well, which can help you with hormone production. So that's one or two very clear things I can think of. What else can you think of, Drew?
I guess, do you mean having less dietary fat, or do you mean reaching a certain degree of leanness or pushing your body in a state where you're in such a mass deficit that affects other things?
I think a bit of both. Yeah, so just being leaner and eating less to some extent.
I think in general, being leaner for most people will show marked improvements in a lot of health markers, but Jonathan and I, and anybody that's competed in a bodybuilding contest knows, you get past a certain level of leanness and you have to take your body to a place where it doesn't want to go. Your energy falls off really, really quickly. You're hungry all the time. You're moody. And you're not eating enough food. Essentially, you're trying to force your body to a level of leanness that it doesn't naturally want to have. Strength can go down quite a bit inside the gym. Your sleep can get all messed up. You mentioned certainly a lack of dietary fat, but also food in general can affect hormone production and your ability to just regulate your mood and your feelings throughout the day. One story I like to tell people is usually the week before a show, I'm pretty much just confined to the couch, and it's hard to move beyond that. And you'll be watching TV, and if a sad commercial comes on, you'll cry, and there's like nothing you can do about it, really. You're not even really in control of your own emotions that much. But unless you're relatively lean, or unless you're pushing your food volume so low in an attempt to try and rapidly accelerate fat loss that shouldn't really be problematic. If you're following a species appropriate diet, even if you're trying to lose body fat, if you're consuming a decent amount of protein and fat, you should feel consistently better over a prolonged period of time until you kind of reach a set point where your body doesn't want to go any further. And that's a little bit different for everybody. But I think for most guys, kind of going back to contest prep, you should be getting better and better and better and better until maybe like the 4 to 6 week mark out. And at that point, you're like at 7-ish% body fat. You're pretty lean. You're feeling good. You're still eating a lot of food. And then once you go past that, then it starts getting really, really hard. But if you're doing everything right, things should be getting better and not worse. And if you're feeling worse, then you probably need to make some kind of adjustment in your training, your sleep, or your diet.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's usually some kind of. You made a really good point there about the set point. And for everyone, it's a bit different, and it can change over time. Like, as I am right now, with like I'd guess about 15% body fat or so, I'm quite content with training. My recovery is quite good. I don't have excess soreness. I feel mentally quite well. I'm not terribly fatigued. At the same time, I'm not eating loads and loads of food either. I'm kind of in that sweet spot. Mm-hmm. So for me, my goal is to gain muscle. It's perfect, the best case scenario. Then Zbigniew, he is looking to get a bit leaner. He's got a bit more fat around the midsection. He's not fat by any means. Anyone that knows or seen Zbigniew, he's not fat at all. He's pretty ripped. But he's just after getting that last bit off, basically. So yeah, it's basically, it comes down to your goals and how much you're willing to suffer. And you do hold fat in different areas. I mean, Zbignew's very lean around the limbs. His arms and legs are very lean. Whereas myself, I hold a bit more weight or fat around the back, perhaps. Maybe around the legs a little bit, and the arms, pretty much everywhere, basically. And it's funny how it comes off, but I think ultimately it just comes down to goals and how much you're willing to suffer. And I think that there's not really a way around that. And there are some things you can do which are like macronutrient cycling. So you can have periods of time where you upregulate your metabolic rate by eating more for a few days. That does work, but it does halt fat loss. But then it allows you to dig a bit deeper usually. So it's almost like what people use, which is carb cycling in the bodybuilding world. It's effectively the same thing, but the thing is, once you use that tool, your metabolism will be upregulated, therefore you'll be burning at a faster rate. So when you then go back down to your initial fat loss macros, typically you'll be more hungry. So it's a way of stepping down a bit to get more fat off. You give yourself a little break, but it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back sort of thing. But ultimately it comes down to your body fat levels and how low they get. And once they get too low, you're going to feel like crap. So, excellent. So if you've got a question, how much fat would one have to lose to see more muscle definition? Any particular number on the scale? That's a very good question. I think it's a how long's a piece of string question, to be honest, but we can probably go into this a little bit. It depends how tall you are as well. Like I'm 6'1". If I can lose about 6 pounds overnight, but it won't be visible. My waist might look a bit slimmer, but I won't look any leaner. For me to look substantially leaner, I'd have to lose about 10 to 15 pounds. And it depends as well how your body fat is held. So with Sophie, she's more concerned about like extra skin and things like that. And her silhouette is really coming in. She's got more of a hourglass shape now, but she's more concerned about like the skin look. So, I mean, how much fat would you have to lose? Honestly, couldn't say. But what we do know is, a roundabout way of answering this is, if we gain more muscle or lose more fat, we will look better. So that's what your goal always has to be. So I'm always telling Sophie, look at the fat-free mass, look at the body fat, the weight. Ideally, have your weight go down, but your fat-free mass go up. That means you're getting leaner and more muscular. So that's what I always try to tell her, because I think that's probably the best advice you could really give. What do you think, Jerome, in sort of Sophie's state? Would you say, if you lose 10 more pounds, you'll look 5% better or something, or what do you think?
Yeah, it's a little multifaceted. The leaner you are, the more quickly you'll see changes. You and I know, like, especially the last week before a bodybuilding show, you can see changes almost daily. Someone who's significantly bigger, and I have a couple of clients here in my studio that are quite large and have lost a significant amount of weight and inches. And it doesn't really show unless you're looking at like a picture, but they're having lost 30, 40 pounds that are starting to see some more definition in their arms. Their legs are feeling a lot different and looking a little bit different. You're right. It's kind of the howling as a piece of string. And then the other part that goes into that is kind of what you mentioned with the last question is fat distribution is going to be a really big indicator of kind of what you're looking at. So someone who carries it more around their hips and their waist might notice a lot more definition early on in their shoulders and in their arms. Other people might have really round faces for a long time, and some people their face gets quite thin pretty quickly. So knowing how in our own bodies we kind of know how fat sits within us, we can look for those areas that we notice more localized improvement, and that can be a really great way to positively reinforce this journey that we're going on. Improvement, that can be a really great. For me, I see a little bit more definition earlier on in my arms as I'm starting to get lean before I really see it in my face or my midsection. So that's kind of what I focus on as I'm going through that journey. But so much of that is going to be based on fat distribution too.
Yeah. Yeah, fat distribution is very important to recognize. Like I said, like my fat is all around like the side of the arm. I'd say maybe the lower back. Apology, that's George. He's getting upset. George, be quiet. George. You're disturbing Carnivore Muscle Ramblings, episode number 36, live Q&A.
He's not a scheduled guest.
Not sure about him. Anyway, yeah. Getting back to the point, yeah, you hold back body fat in different areas, and it will take just time. Like, what we think about when we're bodybuilding is we're trying to create the perfect illusion on stage. It doesn't always mean the weight that you're trying to gain or lose. Sometimes it's just reflective on the image that you see in the mirror. Like, I made this point, it sounds a bit like a cop-out kind of point of view, maybe, I don't know, but I took some progress photos yesterday or the day before. I posted them in the group chat on Carnivore Crew, and they didn't reflect how my body looked to the mirror as I saw it. I looked like big, muscular, that sort of thing, but I didn't look nearly as round or shapely or 3D as I appear in person. Now it's quite frustrating. So now I'm thinking, I need to make this digital version of me 3D as hell. So how am I going to do that is build more muscle and lose more fat? So it'll be like you said, a multifaceted approach. It's not just going to be one thing I'm going to try and do. I'm not just going to lose fat. No, I want to do both. So that's my aim at the moment, is to build lots of muscle, at least as much as possible over the next maybe 1 year period or so, then begin a fat loss sort of phase. But what I'll probably do is I won't just do it entirely like a clean bulk. I'll probably have a period of maybe a month or two here and there to lose some fat, which comes off very quickly for me. So that's probably what I'm going to do. But yeah, be interesting to see. And I'll probably join Jerome for his cut in a few months' time. So that'll be good to do and see what kind of results I can get.
Yeah, we're going to start creating some content in probably just over a month about that. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, I look forward to that a lot. Hey, Susie, how's it going?
Hi, Susie.
Thanks for your kind words, by the way, in one of my recent videos. I think it was one of mine or someone else's, but you mentioned me and I appreciated that, so thank you. Soreness is my second name recently. Yeah, my chest is messed up, honestly.
That's a badge of honor as a big nav. Wear it proudly.
Yeah, I've been doing some chest dominant workouts recently because I can't train shoulders properly, and my chest is, even the upper chest is like slow eccentrics and all that sort of thing. Oh my god, yeah. Soreness. What's up, Andre? How's it going?
Hi, Andre.
If you've got any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them. Excellent. We've got a new guest, Rona Pearson. My first time catching you live from Tonawanda, New York. Probably said that wrong.
Excellent.
Incredible.
There's a lot.
It's always nice when you get new people.
There's a lot of like Native American names around here too in Wisconsin that people struggle to pronounce. So I'm sure we would both probably butcher that name.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a few miles away from the border of a place we called Hampshire. But the Americans call it Hampshire. I'm like, no, it's Hampshire.
Well, we can't speak proper English over here.
Oh, never mind. Never mind. I've been busy working, but back to the studio soon. Yeah, looking forward to seeing that. Question from Mike. How much time will it take for my strength to be back the same when going from carbs to carnivore? That's a good question. I mean, we're gonna make some assumptions here and say that you've traditionally done a high carb bodybuilding style diet and workout regime. Now you're on a carnivore diet as of, say, today, hypothetically. How long it will take will depend on your metabolic flexibility. So people that have traditionally had a lot of carbohydrates in their diet and also been overweight, for example, they will take longer to transfer their adaptation from carbohydrates to fat as the energy substrate used on a carnivore diet. If you've not got much body fat, it might take as little as 2 weeks. That's how long it took me. If you've got more body fat, it might take longer. Depends on the activity you're doing as well. If you're doing one workout per week, then it'll take perhaps even longer than that. So, yeah, that's kind of a broad overview on it. Jerome, we actually did a little talk earlier, actually, about fat adaptation and training and exercise. What do you remember from that? I know it was only like an hour ago, but
it's funny. You hit the exact same bullet points I was thinking. To answer Mike's question directly, anywhere from 0 days, you might be every bit as strong, maybe upwards of, depending on how you're training, 6 months to a year. What we were talking about earlier was some work done by Jeff Volek and Steve Finney, who have done a lot of research in ketogenic diets for especially endurance athletes. And Finney and Volek did a study showing that truly fat adapted athletes, people that hadn't had dietary carbohydrates in most cases at least a year, were able to replenish muscle glycogen after their workouts as endurance cyclists every bit as fast, and were able to replenish as much muscle glycogen as people that were eating a carbohydrate-based diet. You are shifting not necessarily but you're shifting your metabolism in a big way, and it takes a long time to upregulate a lot of these enzymes and hormones that contribute to this adaptive process. So for me, being very high intensity, very low volume, and relatively infrequent, I think it was easier for me to make a transition from a higher carb diet to ketogenic to ultimately carnivore and have zero loss in strength, where I suspect somebody being far more active, far more conventionally athletic, it would probably be a much longer adaptation time. So unfortunately, I feel like I can't give you a great answer. But even if you took a significant step back from being a carbohydrate fueled individual in the gym versus someone who's carnivore, you should still start seeing progress almost every single workout, almost every single exercise of every single workout, however big that step back was, until you meet your previous numbers, and then you'll probably even surpass them.
Yeah. Yeah, as a general rule of thumb, what I say to some people is, for every, say, 10 grams of fat that you decrease maybe 20 grams of carbohydrate. It's a very loose estimation of like what be the equivalent in terms of what your body can use for energy. To like producing ATP in the mitochondria, but that's a rough way of doing it. You can't create a perfect program to transition. It's not so straightforward. But then again, like, you can do it very gradually. You don't need to rush into it. I mean, even doing it the way I mentioned, like 10 grams lowering, 20 grams raising, or whatever it was, 20 grams lowering, 10 grams raising. You can do that every week for like 2 months. You'll get there eventually. You probably won't notice any dip in training performance. So it's not a massive deal. Obviously, as well, like as much as people talk about training performance and getting strength back, you're looking at your health outcomes as well. I mean, the reason why people do carnivore is usually because their health has suffered so much. They have to do carnivore. There's not many people out there that do carnivore for the sake of it, like for a challenge. Anyone that does it for a challenge often thinks, Christ, that was well worth it, and I keep doing this. So you don't see many people falling off. At least I don't. I think most people I speak to, even those that have maybe like 80% adherence, they still do 80% carnivore, which is better than anything less than that. So, the health aspect does come into it, and I think that's quite important to mention. So, yeah, just take it easy. Don't rush. Don't get too, I took the word as pragmatic, maybe, about trying to get perfect results and do it exactly to the T. Chances are you're not a Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't know, Mike Tyson, sort of elite athlete kind of guy. So it's not a big deal for you to take a bit longer doing it if you have to. So I don't rush these things. No soreness when in ketosis, really. I still get sore. I'm guessing they haven't seen our workouts.
How badly do you get sore? Do you get pretty torn up?
I don't know. Not like I used to. I mean, no, I think even like the slowest eccentric heavy leg press I've done, not really.
Yeah.
I'll get soreness if I like peak my bicep like that and I've trained biceps. Yeah, I'll get a bit of soreness, but it won't be, I can't lift my arms up. I don't ever get that anymore.
Yeah.
So
Most of the time, same kind of thing. I get a little bit of soreness that I just kind of notice a little bit throughout the day. It's kind of like, oh, okay, that's there. And then the only times I ever get really, really sore is if I introduce a movement that I haven't done.
A novel stimulus.
Yeah. Introduce a novel stimulus that hasn't been experienced in probably at least a month or longer. So if I were to do barbell back squats, I would be, pushing myself around.
Detail to me from start to finish what happened when you first did barbell back squats in your life.
Well, I started lifting weights casually with my dad when I was probably 12 or 13. And I think my first sets of squats were probably in a Smith machine. And at the time you do it, and I didn't push nearly as hard as I push now, but that next day you wake up thinking like, oh my God, there's something wrong with my body. Everything hurts. I feel tired. I don't want to move. I'm hungry. It's such a weird feeling the first time you get really, really, really sore, or really sore in a long time. It's quite a shock. So at least that's probably my earliest memories of squatting. But looking at it now, like I didn't push myself nearly as hard. Back then it was like 5 sets of 12 reps on squats, and then I think my dad would make me finish up with like a set of 20 reps. We'd pick a weight, and then if I could only get 12,
then I'd have
to stand there until I get a little bit of rest, and then go down for number 13, and then keep doing that until I got 20. And that was brutal. Those were some of the hardest leg days I've ever had, at least in terms of how sore I was.
Yeah, for me, I remember my first time I did squats in the gym. I was lucky I never neglected legs, so I always did something for legs, whether it be leg press, extensions, curls, whatever. My brother was very adamant about that, because he's like, well, if you're my brother and you're coming to the gym with me, we're not skipping leg day and looking like those guys over there. So I was quite fortunate. Leg day was built into my training. It was never a just do chest kind of thing.
Sure.
So we had something we called it the main gym, which was like the main gym session with cardio, a few machines, a few dumbbells. Then we had the foundry, which was the big boys gym. So you had to be 16 plus to train there. So I couldn't train there for the first 2 years, but sometimes my brother would sneak me in with his his card or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we did squats, and I think it's the same thing true with T-bar rows as well. I bent over, my glutes were really sore. I remember the day after I'm doing the squats, I sat down the toilet and I was like having to like, roll myself to get up. Like it's quite a small bathroom we had at the time, and I was trying to grab the hold of the bathroom door handle, like pull myself up so I didn't have to use my legs. I was so sore. So I just have very fond memories of that. Like night, like clear as day, I can remember that. But yeah, it's funny now we sort of almost chase that soreness, which is quite ironic. But it's funny when we look at it, like we do all these like funny workouts, like 2 sets of this, 3 sets of this, 1 set of this, like the average gym goer. Sometimes 4 or 5 sets. And I think, imagine if you just did like 1 or 2 really hard sets of squats, 1 or 2 really hard sets of rows, overhead press, chest press, pull downs, maybe a leg curl. That's pretty much all you need. You build a pretty sick physique. You know, but just training that hard, like, yeah, it's certainly eye-opening the way I look back at how I used to train like 40 sets per body part to now doing, like, I don't know, I'd say between 8 and 15, probably on the higher side at the moment, but between 8 and 15 sets. And looking back a year ago, guys, I was doing about 20 to 25 sets per workout. But also didn't really have much understanding of intensity back then. I knew how to train hard, but I didn't know how to train that hard. But now I've kind of upped the ante in my regime. I've noticed, wow, I can get away with, I say get away, but the thing is you don't get away with less because it's much more work. Doing, for example, 8 sets all to eccentric muscular failure where you cannot hold the weight anymore is, I'd estimate, 3 times more taxing than not doing that and just doing maybe 10 reps where you could do like 12, honestly. So yes, it's very eye-opening. I've gained a lot from knowing people like Jerome recently, and it's funny because although I understood these things like training hard to failure, doing the maximum amount, I never really seriously pushed myself that hard. So as soon as I got to concentric failure where it started to slow down a bit, I just dropped the weight and just gave up. And I'm looking back and thinking, oh god, I could have accelerated some gains there and got where I am now quicker. But then again, like I kind of, it swings and roundabouts. We all learn something, and it takes a lot of time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Good comment from Andre as well. The day after my first squatting and deadlifting, I had problems to say, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And yet you
just
keep going back to it.
Yeah, I'll probably wait to squat and deadlift for quite a long time, but it's funny. 10 days from now will mark the period of time that I was looking to get back to training at least to the capacity I was training before, just like weights, exercises. I'm not remotely close to that yet. So, but it's been a good knowing yourself. That's not the right way of putting it. Knowing you, Jerome, has been a godsend in some ways because you've taught me things and outlined things which I wouldn't have really perceived that clearly until you told me about training, using different machines, finding ways to load different parts of movement, the correct way to start on a leg press, important things like that, timed tension, selecting the right movements. All these things I've learned from people like yourself, I'd say mostly from yourself. And that's meant that now I can still train to some capacity in spite of the injuries. So I'm grateful for that. And I just hope other people listen too. You know, you've got 2 people here that are preaching the same sort of thing. I've got first-hand experience myself, and Jerome's got first-hand experience with people that he's trained. You know, the story of the lady with the 4-point walker that can now get about on her own, that's quite inspiring to me.
Yeah.
Because that could be me in a few years. I don't know. So it's good to know I'm doing the right things. It's very,
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah,
I
unfortunately,
appreciate your degree in human movement, walking.
Yeah, walking. Yeah, my degree in walking. A lot of, I spent whole semesters learning about how to walk uphill or downhill or on different terrain. And, don't scoff at a degree in walking. It's a lot of hard work.
What is the correct incline in order to simulate walking outdoors when on a treadmill?
I don't know, probably like 1.5 to 3%. That's not much. I was gonna jokingly say 100%.
Can you imagine? I remember those days I used to hold onto the treadmill and I was like walking on it like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I remember that. How's work?
I think we all have had our fair share of interesting ideas that we've tried in the gym.
Oh, interesting fact. I trained traps for the first time in years the other day.
It directly trained traps, I
Yeah, so I
think.
actually did shrugs.
How was that?
It hurt. My forearms hurt as well because I didn't bring my straps with me to the gym.
Sure. And I imagine, like, could you handle?
I was cycling. My hands were like,
Did you have a shrug machine, or were you using dumbbells? Like, how was your spine deal with compression? Because it's
not. It wasn't the best thing, to be fair. I only used like 25 kilo dumbbells, so like
okay.
50 odd pounds, 55 pounds. But I did seated dumbbell shrugs. Probably wouldn't do that again. I think I'm almost better off just using the cables
Yep.
and either doing that seated or standing. So they're directly out from my body and I'm putting my traps inwards and up, sort of thing.
Yep.
And when I'm doing, I don't do this business. I just have my head in a neutral position, to raise them up and down.
Yep. Well, you do a lot of at least when you can train your shoulder, you do a lot of overhead pressing too, and the traps are almost single-handedly responsible for elevating the shoulder. So they're definitely getting worked still.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've just been averse from training a bit because I don't want to have giant traps and look like one of those people, I don't know. It's hard to explain, I think.
Yeah, you don't want to look like a manlet, I think is the word.
Yeah, that's the one. So Susie said, one of my gym friends joked that I'm always solo. My training is constantly getting more intense or I'm changing something up. Yeah, what do you think about the muscle confusion principle, Jerome?
I think the benefits to switching one's exercise routine frequently are almost entirely mental. And for people that want some variety, I wouldn't begrudge them at all. I can understand how following the same basic movements in a certain sense could get kind of mentally taxing after a while and wanting to switch things up. If you like soreness, I think switching your routine often is a great idea. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it, so I tend to follow a lot of the same basic movements. I don't think muscle confusion is a real thing in terms of increasing size or strength. But I do think there's a lot of validity to it in terms of just enjoying what you do in the gym and something that's going to keep you going on a regular basis.
Yeah, keeping you consistent is important. I think as much as we always talk about, oh, this is the best way to do it and this, that, and the other, I think being consistent as hell is the best way to go about reaching your goals.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, my brother always outlines this so perfectly, and the way he says it is like, he's so bang on. He always says, as if I was him speaking, my friend goes to the gym, but he takes a week off here and there. And in my 15, 17, 16 years of training, I've only taken time off because I've had an injury, because I've not been able to make it, because I've been unable to train. But he's never taken time off. He's never taken a deload week. He's never rested his body to the point where he's done less. He's always trained at capacity every single session. And on days where, for example, he might have chest, but he's like, I don't feel like it today, I don't feel that fit, he's still done something. He's still done like arms or something a bit less taxing. And I honestly think if you've got the recovery capacity to do that, you should do it. And if you can train, you can recover, keep doing it. I'm not the biggest fan of deload weeks. Jerome and I were actually looking at, well, I think I was looking at kind of like a pre-study, or not a published study, it's like a pre-study kind of thing, outline which Menno Hanselman's posted on Instagram. Basically, without reading it properly, he kind of said deload weeks aren't great for muscle gains. Jerome, what do you think about that? And I'll probably expand a bit.
Yeah, I think if you're a performance athlete, there's also that neuromuscular conditioning aspect to your training. So if you're just looking, are we looking at hypertrophy? Are we looking at performance in a specific lift? Because any kind of movement like a bench press doesn't just have the strength of the musculature involved. There's also a skill component. So taking a deload week or taking the intermittent week off of training, your muscle's not going to go anywhere, but you could lose some of that neuromuscular conditioning. And then when you get back to your regular training, you might notice that your bench press or whatever exercise you're doing is down 10 or 15 pounds. And mentally, we always think like I lost muscle because my strength is down. And it's really not always the case. I think if you're auto-regulating your training correctly and your frequency is dictated by your progress chart and the volume and intensity with which you train, I don't think you ever need a deload week. And I think you can train as intensely as possible, but that's going to mandate longer recovery periods for most people. What about you?
I think, yes, we've had this discussion before. I know I'm more of the same mind, obviously. I think people that program in deload weeks are people that are typically robotic, perhaps quite OCD, perhaps they like to checkbox. I've done my 3 to 4 workouts per week. I've done my 10 sets of this, that, or whatever they happen to be doing. I've hit my quotient for that period of time. What we're basically saying is you don't have to program time off from the gym. Although it's not detrimental to take time off, we're saying you don't have to program off if you auto-regulate your training from week to week by adjusting variables that you can control. So, for example, I could quite easily say right now, with my right shoulder being so messed up, I'm not going to train shoulder or do any pushing movements for a week, 2 weeks. Okay, what I could do instead is just adjust my movements to still get blood flow and stimulation to that muscle group, but not load it in a way that impacts its recovery capacity and ability. So I'm not then going to ignore training that body part. But what I will do is I'll reduce the volume. I'll change exercises. I'll manipulate the angle, things like that. Or do less sets. I might take an extra day before and after that training that body part to recover more. So, people look at it as like a deload train. You need to be more micro managing, more specific with your training from day to day before you start worrying about things like that. And I honestly think it comes from the world of powerlifting where they periodize their training into training cycles.
Yeah.
So we know, for example, Eddie Hall, if he's doing a 500 kg deadlift, the week prior to that, he wasn't doing 490 kilos or 500 kilos. He would have ramped that right down to like maybe 420, 450, maybe 2 weeks before. He would have been as rested as possible because him doing that one repetition is extremely taxing to the body. So he needs all the recovery capacity that he can possibly sequester before doing that lift. So that's why in his case, he would deload. He cannot micromanage his training sessions because he's lifting so much and at maximal capacity. So it's not going to work out in your favor if you're doing deload weeks. I don't think. You can still do it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the optimal way to achieve your goals, personally speaking.
It made me smile because I was thinking of Jim Wendler's 5-3-1 program. Very structured, very Monday, Wednesday, Friday. These are your lifts. This is your deload week every 4th week. Westside Barbell. With the conjugate system, they have speed days and they have heavy days and they have power days, and it's all structured and regulated that way. But in a lot of ways, your progress chart and listening to your body. And knowing, like you said, with your shoulder, there are going to be times that certain movements are just out of the question and you won't know until that morning, but you still probably want to get some kind of stimulus into that muscle group and into that joint to try and facilitate recovery. Well said.
Yeah. Excellent. That'll be a clip probably. Yeah. Anyway, Andrew's made a statement here. So 1 set to failure with high time and tension for leg press, maybe almost throw up, and I feel legs for a couple of days. Much more demanding than 4 or 5 sets, keeping 1 to 3 reps in reserve. Yeah. I mean, after I said this to you, Jerome, I think the other day. I think was it in the group chat. I did a set of leg extensions. I think on that day actually I ended up doing 2 sets. I've been doing like a mini circuit, so 4 exercises, 4 total sets, doing that twice over, so 8 total sets. The leg extension, the second time around that I did it, I wasn't sure what to do. I was holding onto the seat, and I was like almost letting go to like try and touch my thighs to like stop the burning. But then I was trying to like keep myself in the seat, and I was putting my head back and looking everywhere. You should be almost going through that when you're training. So you kind of made a really good idea actually, which I've done sometimes in the past with simple movements, is closing your eyes. Training can be meditative if you let it be meditative. So you don't have to do all these grunt faces and all these funny sounds and stuff. I mean, I barely make any sound in the gym.
Yep.
Yeah, people look at me like I'm dripping with sweat. I'm drenched by the time I'm done, like 2 sets. And they're like, "Oh, what?" I'm like, "Yeah, did you see my set? Did you see my set? Do you realize how hard I was training?" When you train to that kind of muscular capacity, that training intensity, sorry, you will feel like that, and it will be horrendous, and it will shake you up for days. So I could not do that 4 times a week, no chance.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add to that.
No, definitely not. We've got a question. Guys, in your experience, do you think that training with maximum effort has different consequences depending on whether you are using multi or single joint movements? That would include free weights or machines. I think it would have an impact. If you're using a squat versus a machine preacher curl, for example, I'm not really dripping with sweat after a preacher curl, but I am dripping with sweat after a squat movement. So the consequences, perhaps more soreness, perhaps more systemic fatigue, perhaps less frequency in terms of your training, a higher probability of overtraining. So it's all a scalable thing, really. What do you think, Jerome?
Yeah, I guess my first thought was within the context of like hypertrophy or strength gains. I think the muscles just know intensity and just know tension. But you bring up a lot of good points. If you're doing a heavy compound pushing or pulling movement, a row, a bench press, a squat, you could very likely experience a lot of muscular soreness and a lot of deep muscles of the trunk or of the back that you may not necessarily feel if you're doing the same movement on a machine, when a lot of the overload is more focused on the muscles that you're trying to work. So that's an interesting question. And I think it kind of depends which lens we're looking at it when it comes to answering it. But specifically for hypertrophy, no, I don't think it makes a difference, single or multi-joint. Just intensity. Just train as hard as you safely can.
Yeah, I think ultimately it depends how many exercises you're doing. How do I put it? Like, if you're doing a squat movement, in studies where we've looked at people that have done squats, we've seen their biceps have grown in the absence of bicep movements. So I don't think it's because of some systemic acute growth hormone increase or anything like that. I don't think that comes into it at all. I think that's a nothing point. Same with testosterone. I don't think that has any impact on muscle growth, at least in long term physique composition outcomes. But I do think that when you're using a heavy weight, for example, on your back, like a squat, when your scapula is retracted, when you're pinching your shoulder blades together, when your mid back is activated, your lower back is activated to hold the weight, when your biceps are clenched to hold the bar on your back, when your traps are retracted, when your calves are slightly gripping to the ground, like your feet are gripping to the ground, so therefore your calves are activated. When you go right down the bottom of a squat, I think that does have a more of a overall muscle growth effect, of course, because you're using more muscle groups. But then you have to factor in how much are you incorporating more specific simple movements like a bicep curl to grow your biceps more, and how much will that put an inroad on your recovery overall when you're training. So you're putting all these things together to create a routine. So saying that, I wouldn't just do one exercise or the other. And most people, I think, are in cases where they cannot just do the big 5 2 to 3 times per week. Once you get so advanced, that becomes too much to recover from. You can do it, but you wouldn't be able to recover very well. You wouldn't necessarily get stronger. You'd probably be really sore and feel like crap and be hungry as hell and end up binge eating. So it's not something I'd really recommend. So that's why we have different tools, different jobs. So, I mean, I like a mix of movements. I like a leg press. I like bicep curl. I like a shoulder press. I like a side raise. You know, it's typically about 2 exercises roughly per body part that I'll use. Assuming I'm using the same gym, I usually switch between about 2 exercises, but then something like my legs, which will require more volume because I cannot reach that high of intensity, I'll use that as a lever, so therefore my exercise variation will increase. I'll use more exercises to go closer to failure, basically. So it all comes down to your individual capacity. But yeah, I think it's a mix of movements that comes down to building a good body. Do you have any points to add to that at all while I'm on it?
No, not without going down some deep rabbit hole that I don't think I necessarily want to go into at this point.
Why is that?
No, I completely agree with what you say, how like as you become more advanced, the big five, it becomes more than a lot of people could recover from. And I've definitely experienced that. I've been toying around with the idea in my head that I'm not sure what the long-term like end point of training is for people. I suspect at some point there's probably a terminus that once somebody has essentially reached their genetic potential, no amount of novel stimulus is going to continue to produce growth. And at which point somebody should be exercising as frequently as their genetics will allow, but also knowing that they're not really going to see any growth. And I think at that point, and I'm just speculating, I suspect it would look a lot more like a consolidated routine at that point. But it's something I'll explain further, detail offline.
Yeah.
But at least now I'm thinking the end point for most people, not necessarily competitive bodybuilders, but the end point for most people, I think, is probably going to look like a big 3 routine once every 3 to 7 days, depending on their genetics. But there's a lot that goes into that. So I'll unpack that with you offline sometime.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we can maintain our muscle mass with very little. What happened to me after my surgery, 8 days post-fusion, I was doing 20 rep sets, not to failure, not really that intense. Quite intense, but not that intense. I didn't lose any muscle mass.
Well, and your squat example and explaining all the contractions as hard as they are, even those isometric contractions sometimes just to maintain torso stability or to hold on to the bar if you have a couple 100 pounds on your back, is sufficient with a lot of people to create some growth stimulus. And when you're at your potential, I think just a couple basic compound pushing and pulling movements is going to help you maintain everything you already have. In which case, do you need a bicep curl at that point? No, probably not. Throw it in if you want, but that's something I'll unpack with you later.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. I think of a pro bodybuilder called Hunter Labrada. So he's the son of Lee Labrada, who was a bodybuilder, I believe, of the 90s. Now, he's got a lot of muscle mass. He's pretty complete head to toe. However, he does have a somewhat lack of muscle mass in his lats. His workout routine is very lat bias. So a lot of it's tucking the elbow into the hip, bring the scapula backwards and down. That's basically what a lot of his training is for back. So he's trying loads of things right now. He's trying frequency, exercise specificity, ordering of exercises, exercise selection, which kind of comes into those 2 points. What else? I'm guessing as well, like the way he performs the reps is changing as well. And I think you can only make a muscle grow so much, and it just comes down to the way it's shaped, the way it's formed. And you can add more strength to your muscles and have progressively more weight on your lifts, but I don't think it exponentially or trends in the way that you'll gain the same amount of muscle to the amount of strength that you're gaining. I think your weak points will almost always be your weak points. Like my triceps are probably, in my opinion, probably the weakest part of my physique. I'm saying that I can still make them bigger, but they'll never look quite as good as my biceps maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just the way they're inserted, the way they're shaped, my elbow strength, my capacity to recover my triceps, the way it feels. Like we have exercises we enjoy doing, and they're typically ones where we have a strong body part for. For me, triceps isn't one of them. There's lots of things I can throw at it, so I can train them more. But if I'm training them more without specific exercises which are deliberate, exact, and train the muscle in the right fashion, they're just throwing more at it. It doesn't make them better. It just means you're putting more into the mix for them to potentially not recover from. So I can see why you're saying training less almost, but training better is a better way to go about training, especially when you get to that peak sort of muscular level.
Well, I think of like strongmen, the Eddie Halls, the Hafthor Bjornsons, those guys are often seen as having the Hercules gene, and it almost seems like there's no limit to how big they can actually get. And Eddie Hall, every year he competed for a number of years, he gained, I think, a stone every single year in body weight. And I don't know how many bodybuilders have that same gene, but yeah, once a muscle's at its potential, there's not much you can do. You can kind of exceed your genetic potential a bit with performance enhancing drugs, as evident by professional bodybuilders, but there's only so much you can do to size and shape a muscle, even under the best of conditions. So I'm more than happy to admit I'm wildly speculating what I think the endpoint for a lot of people would be, and it's probably something I need to give more thought before I even discuss it with Jonathan. But
I think we're going into the nitty gritty of all this sort of thing with like, what's going to happen when we're at my level or your level and we're going to get there.
Yeah.
The chances are most people watching this, generally speaking, probably aren't near there yet.
Right.
So that's why we have like all the content we do have out, so you can start to put together your routine, piece it all together. I'm pretty confident with all the information that's on my channel right now and Jerome's channel as well. You could go through all of that if you spent like a whole weekend just watching it. All stuff about training, recovery, nutrition. You could formulate a really good routine that would be perfect for you.
Yeah.
Then it will change the next week because your body is dynamic. You're not the same person you were next week and the week after that. So that's honestly how I'd evaluate it. But hopefully that's helpful to you anyway. And my pleasure as well, and Jerome's pleasure as well, I'm sure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Just going to say hello to Kyle. Nice to see you, Kyle. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll probably wrap it up soon. And also, good morning to the Baroness of Beefers, currently residing in Australia, apparently.
We're in the presence of royalty, apparently.
Apparently. I don't think I've got her on the block yet. No, I can't block people on this.
So I think I still have mod powers. I could probably do that quick.
Anyway, yeah. There's actually one announcement I do need to make, guys. I know I think I've got like 12 people watching this right now, so it probably won't impact many people at this point. I forgot to make it earlier. I'm not sure how to word this or angle this in a politically correct, fair, fun, friendly way.
Ooh.
But what I will say is I do put out a lot of content on my channel free of charge, and I do not tell people to spend their money on me or anything I offer. But I do obviously ask that you do that because it is helpful. But I'm not telling anyone to do that. And with that same respect, I don't tell anyone what they should do with their life or what videos they should make or what videos they should not make. I also leave free speech as apparent as possible on my channel in the comment section. I have some guidelines on there. One of them is it's judge the argument, not the person. So I don't want people on my channel saying negative commentary about me or people that I have on my channel or anything that I say in my videos. If, for example, I made a video about the late Mike Mensa and you didn't like how I criticised him about his thoughts on diet, I suggest you never, ever, ever read a book based on scientific literature ever again, because you'll be deeply offended. Honestly. So, yeah, and I try to come off friendly and helpful to people, but I will block people on the spot. I won't leave it to chance. If someone's disrespectful, nonchalant, quite frankly, I don't need to tolerate it. I don't need to deal with it. I don't need to tiptoe around people. I am respectful enough to people that I can say that and not deal with nastiness on my channel. The silly comments, the rudeness isn't needed. The reason why I'm bringing this up is over the last perhaps 2 to 3 weeks, I've had to block around 10 people from my channel. And bear in mind, guys, I've got 4,200 subscribers or something. I'm not by any means a big channel, but the fact I've had to block that many people says a lot about who's coming to my channel. I don't know why. What's funny is none of them have been vegans. It's just been people that have a problem with what I say about nutrition. I thought I'd make you laugh. But hopefully you guys get my drift. I'm not trying to come across like, don't leave critical comments about the information, but don't criticize me for making a video about something I disagree with. That's not the right way to go about it. Someone said it was unfair that I criticized Mike Mensa basically in the video. Said it wasn't fair because he was from a different generation to us. And I said to Jerome, well, Adolf Hitler was a different generation to us. He promoted propaganda. He misinformed people. He's responsible for deaths. So yeah, I think I am fair to criticize someone that was not correct. In the same way, after the fact that perhaps 20 years down the line, people go back to this video or any other video and think, well, this Jonathan guy's got it wrong or Jerome's got it wrong. They'll be free to criticize it and say they're wrong and why, if they can back it up. Yeah. The thing is, I can back it up, and I'm fair, and I'm respectful, and that's the best I can do. So if you don't like that, you'll get blocked straight away. There'll be no sort of waiting around. I'm not dealing with it, basically. So yeah.
And Jonathan and I will always welcome a sound argument or a sound critique because we want to learn so we can be better and not make the same mistake if we've made a genuine mistake. So if we're wrong, somebody please correct us, because I don't want to continue to make the same mistake. I've talked before. You and I have talked before.
I know for sure. Yeah, I've made. Sorry, I'll just make this point quickly. I've made 3 mistakes in my videos that I know of. In my 7 months of being on YouTube, 3 definite mistakes. They're on quite old videos, and none of those mistakes that I made would have harmed anyone if they used that information. But if I did ever say, for example, do this, and that was something that could cause someone danger or harm, I would either retract the comment or leave in the description box below, pin it. By the way, I made this statement about this. This is not correct. Please ignore this. Or if it is really criminal, I'd just delete the video itself. So that's where I'm coming across from. So you have to be open to criticism, I think.
Yep, and you made exactly the same point that I would make. You and I both feel a tremendous ethical responsibility to not just our clients, but to potential clients because of the information that we put out. Strength training and diet especially, has the power to do some really profound positive things in people's lives, but it also carries a significant amount of risk if not carefully performed. So we would always welcome a correction.
Never mind, eh? Never mind. Yeah, and on that point as well, Rick's been wrong for almost 40 years.
You've been married almost 40 years? I should shut my mouth. No wonder I'm divorced, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you said that anyway. It is nice to get the weight off my chest. Now I've kind of said it. Maybe 20 people might have heard that and thought, okay, I might take this on and maybe not be rude and disrespectful online. Maybe, I don't know. Jeremiah has joined. How's it going? Nice to see you. How is your training going? You recently started back in the gym, I believe. Ooh. We're going to head off in a bit because Jerome needs to go for a wee.
I usually do it. At my age, my prostate is shot. So, did we get to Ben's question? I know you had it highlighted, but I wasn't sure if we directly.
Oh, sorry.
It.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Ben. Good spot, Jerome. I'm glad you saw that. I train very early in the morning. Would you recommend training faster, or what quick carnivore snack could I consume after waking? That's quite a good question. We've kind of covered this in a roundabout way in quite a few things before, but it's important to just keep mentioning it, otherwise you'll go off and do the wrong thing. I think ultimately it comes down to what allows you to train your best. and continue to perform better, that makes you feel good. If training fasted makes you feel sick, perhaps don't do it. If training fasted makes you feel better because you've got more energetic kind of hormones in your body, you're not digesting food, train fasted. That's pretty much it. And what carnivore snack? I mean, you can just do like a chaffle or something, like a egg and cheese little waffle thing. Some people might do a whey protein shake maybe with some cream in it. It depends what you digest well and what you enjoy. I don't think training fast is as detrimental as what most people say it is. That's assuming the day prior to it you're well fed. But I think if you're to be doing a diet where you're chronically under eating, then your training performance would go down. So effectively, no matter when you trained, you'd still be in an energy deficit. So I wouldn't be looking to try and match your previous training performance is. So what do you think, Jerome?
My personal preference is to train fasted, and I've been doing that for years. I would highly recommend, again, from my own experience, do not eat a dozen eggs right before leg day. I should probably leave that one at that. You'll kind of know. You try it fasted. If you want a little bit of food in your belly, I would keep that snack relatively light. Maybe 2 to 3 eggs, maybe 1 beef patty or half a beef patty. Keep that meal light. Hit it with a little bit of salt. And yeah, Jonathan's right. Especially if you're fed fairly well from the night before, it's not going to make a big difference either way.
Yeah, couldn't have said it about myself. I for reference train after one meal. Usually it's like, at the moment it's been like 5 eggs, maybe 1 or 2 ounces of cheese, about 70 grams of butter, about 30 to 40 grams of whey protein. But I do the carnivore butter bites, but that's pretty much the ingredients of what I'll eat in the breakfast, pretty much. Something like that. It might go up or down. Might vary the ratios a bit, the macros, but it's not that critical as long as you can still train hard. I think a lot of people get too wrapped up in it all. Yes. I strongly agree with that statement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. As we're speaking, I got a response back about the post I made, and they're like, "Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you." And I'm like, "Well, no, you just made a comment which is rude and telling me what videos I should and should not make." And I said to you, in effect, don't tell me what to do. I don't know. I don't like being told what to do, guys, in case you haven't noticed. I can't get married until I find the female version of myself. Jerome, what are your thoughts towards this?
I don't think I know how to respond to that. If you can find a hardworking, intelligent woman that likes to eat iguana, I would say you should probably put a ring on that pretty quick.
Yeah. Which finger, though?
Finger?
Yeah.
I don't know. Pick one.
Not too bad. After not seeing the inside of a gym for over 6 years, I'm 3 weeks in and I'm actually shocked at the response. I'm seeing visible results and I've been increasing weight almost every time. I think I need to stay away from leg stuff that involves my ankle, though. It's messed up from several sprains. It's killing me after leg sled presses. Yeah. Some of those sleds are blimmin' heavy. Have you noticed that, Jerome? Some like leg presses are really, really heavy.
Yeah, and a lot of that's going to depend on the angle too, how much dorsiflexion that places your ankle in. Sometimes that pulls your toe really far back. Sometimes some machines might be better than others. So if you're doing a leg extension, leg curl, hip add, and abduction, you probably don't need to really do a leg press or any kind of squat type movement. As long as you're kind of hitting all of the basic planes of movement with your legs, you could work around that ankle pretty easy. If you have issues, I mean, like 90% of the people I have at my personal training studio come to me with some kind of chronic health condition or mobility issue. So feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions.
Yeah, Jerome's the one to talk to about anything to do with walking. I'm going to keep bringing that one up. Jerome, what am I going to do about my hip then? Because I still feel disabled.
I need to get
Getting
a
out
more.
of bed does take me about 4 minutes.
I need a more firm diagnosis about what's going on with your hip, and potentially you have another doctor's appointment coming up, don't you? You're going to have another X-ray or some ultrasound so we can kind of see what's going on in there.
An MRI in. I'll leave the dates and stuff to Sophie, but it's about a week or so away, ish.
Did they? Okay.
think.
Okay. I was like, they can do an MRI with your hip and your back, but I guess if you have a non-ferrous metal.
It's aluminium.
Okay. Yep.
No, sorry, it's titanium.
Okay.
Weighs about 300 grams.
You're just half cyborg at this point.
With 0 Olympia titles for it. What?
Not yet.
You
28.
seen any Arnold film yet?
No, I'm not a fan of Arnold.
Well, because of his political beliefs.
A lot of things. He's one of those people that is always, not always,
Right.
but is so self-serving most of the time, and I just have so little respect for that.
I find it amazing that he's got the same personality type as me.
Yeah, according to Briggs Meyer, or
Yeah. That surprised me a lot because I can see how he's driven and stuff, but I don't know if it's confidence or egotism that he has. I can't really say.
I'd have to think about that. I feel like his whole life has been one giant work into crafting this public image of who Arnold is. And I don't know, I think deep down he's a scared little boy. I'm not saying that about you, though. It's not.
I think anyone that, to address what you said, I think anyone that excels in more than one or two things is probably a bit, I don't know what the word is, a bit off in some way,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, Seneca, a Greek philosopher, said there's no genius without a touch of madness. I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah, it's definitely true for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you know better than most.
No, I still can't change a light bulb. You should see these light bulbs, guys, honestly. They got like wires hanging up everywhere.
I thought you were. I was going to ask if you were part Polish and if you need me to spin the ladder.
Oh, God. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, do you have anything, final words to say, Jerome, before we wrap this up?
No, I just want to thank everybody for their time today. Train hard, train safe, and when in doubt, like seriously, one consultation with Jonathan will save you guys so many headaches over the long run. Don't make the same mistakes that Jonathan and I have, and don't waste hundreds or thousands of hours trying to chase down what can be a very simple answer and oftentimes can be resolved very quickly with one phone call. And for the cost of a tub of protein or some supplement that a lot of people won't even hesitate to buy, to get shit straightened out that quickly will save you a lot of headaches. So I can't recommend a consultation with Jonathan highly enough.
And I'll say, adding on to that, 90% of the time it is something really simple that I can pick out within minutes of you talking to me. And pretty much every circumstance I get feedback about a month or two later. Oh, I spoke to you about what it was before. Do you remember you said about this? Oh, and by the way, yeah, that isn't an issue anymore. I'm making gains again. And it's not about how detailed I could give you in terms of my answer to your questions or how perfect your routine is. It's usually just having the right button to press at the right time and having the experience from myself to know which button to press. That's all it is. It'll save you a lot of headaches. So I do advise that for a lot of people. Book in for a consultation. I put actually the link down below on the scrolling banner there.
Excellent.
Excellent. Compositionconsultant.com. Nutrition and exercise expert. And also, if you want to get in contact with Jerome, what's your website that you cannot currently obtain?
Some guy tried to sell me 18minutefitness.com. My website is 18minute.fitness. But the best way to get a hold of me is probably Facebook or Instagram if you really want to. Jonathan occasionally posts links to my channel, but if you look hard enough, you'll find me.
Yeah. You can just type in Jerome Armstrong and 18-minute fitness. It'll come up straight away. No problem at all. Well, thank you very much, guys. I'm glad you joined us. Jerome now has to go for a wee.
Yep.
He also has a horrendous headache.
This is
must tend to that.
me actively listening to you. Should we high five like we practiced?
Wait.
Hold on. Yeah. Doesn't matter how big
That doesn't work.
Whoop, now we're
No, you're still the wrong side.
I'm on the wrong side? I look good to me. We'll
No,
work
you
on
don't.
this. Oh,
Do it the other way.
Okay, I have my camera mirrored.
That's
so-
why then you're...
Okay. We'll have to leave that to the audience to see what.
There we go. You'll see after, Jerome, trust me. Honestly.
Yeah. We just embarrassed the hell out of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note, yeah, had a conversation with you last week. Highly recommend it. You pointed me in the right direction. Yeah.
Awesome.
Appreciate that. Thank you. I always steer people in the right direction. I don't lie to people. I just need the information about someone, what they're doing, what they want to achieve, where they're going, what they've been doing in the distant past as well comes into it. So yeah, I do recommend it. Nothing really to add. So I'll wrap it up now. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you very much for attending, and I appreciate you joining Carnivore Muscle Ramblings episode number 36. I'll soon have some more special guests on the channel, which you'll be able to look out for, including, hopefully, Dr. Anthony Chafee, my friend Sean, and my friend Marty. So they'll be good speakers. I'm sure you'll gain a lot from them, specifically about training and a bit about diet as well, which will be useful. So take care. Goodbye.